Budget 2024 tabled on Friday rolled out a massive 393.8 billion ringgit in allocation. Prime Minister Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim said the budget is aimed at fixing the economic imbalances while also helping Malaysians to cope with the rising cost of living. But what does the budget mean to Malaysia and how will it affect you? Welcome to A Decimal Point, your up-to-speed source where we dissect the implications as well as the nuances of the Malaysia 2024 budget.
Chaos, kerumitan, complexity.
While the Malaysian government has remained true to its promise of not reinstating the Goods and Services Tax (GST), it has announced an increase in the service tax by 2%, from 6% to 8% in the coming year. Notably, this increase excludes essential services like food, beverages, and telecommunications. The government's intentions are to boost revenue, but this might squeeze some consumers and retailers alike, particularly given the current economic climate.
Tourism, I believe, will be also affected, and logistics, such as, I believe, AirAsia's and e-commerce industry, will be expected to increase in terms of their costs. And it will lead to rise of costs. Indirectly, I believe it will lead to negative effects in the long term. And whether you like it or not, it has been increased additional 2%. We have to cope with it, either to the consumers or the businesses themselves. Either way, I believe it will lead to a negative effect in the long term.
It is a necessary step to broaden the revenue base, and I believe the move is carefully curated because it excludes F&B and telcos industry. And I hope that the additional tax collected will be put into good use and to create a spillover effect to further boost the local ecosystem.
The high-income earners who are mostly from the T20 and the conglomerate sector are affected by this new SST rate. There are significant stakeholders in the market. Any market instrument may be used by them to pass on cost increases to the buyer up to the certain level. For example, they can increase the price of goods in the market to boost their marginal revenue and offset the need to increase the tax. These tax modifications will ultimately fall under the final consumer. I hope the government would keep an eye out for any misconduct and market manipulation activity and take appropriate actions against them.
In addition to the service tax hike, the budget introduces luxury goods tax LGT for items such as watches and jewelry. Furthermore, a capital gains tax of 10% will apply to unlisted shares. The implementation of the high-value goods tax is also set to take place at a rate of 5% to 10%. Aside from this, the government has also affirmed its commitment to implement the e-invoicing system from August 1, 2024 onwards and the global minimum tax in 2025. The government projects Malaysia's economy to expand by 4 to 5% in 2024, while its fiscal deficit is expected to reduce to 4.3% of the national gross domestic product (GDP). However, debt service payments are projected to be around 46.1 billion ringgit, accounting for 15.2% of the 2024 revenue.
Any tax that generates revenue for the government is always a good thing. Nevertheless, it will always have effects on the business industries. And the government sometimes have to consider within the short period of recovering from the pandemic COVID-19 whether it is a good initiative or not. I believe the government have find a midway solution to tax, and from this capital gain tax is always something of an effect to the business community, even though it generates revenue to the government. So in my point of view, I believe it could have been more discussed with the business community and the NGOs.
An emphasis on technical vocational education and training TVET is evident in the allocation of 6.8 billion ringgit, alongside 100 million ringgit for the professional certification of TVET graduates in recognized industries. Green energy initiatives receive substantial support, with 2 billion ringgit earmarked for the National Energy Transition Roadmap and 200 billion ringgit in financing incentives for the transition to a low-carbon economy. The government encourages electric vehicle EV adoption by offering a rebate of up to 2,400 ringgit for e-bike buyers with an annual income below 120,000 ringgit, complemented by the installation of 180 EV charging stations. Civil servants are in for a treat, with a generous 2,000 ringgit bonus for government servants grade 56 and below, including contract workers. Those in the top positions in public sectors, including police, fire and rescue personnel, and other uniformed personnel, will receive an additional 1,000 ringgit bonus. Pensioners will also be entitled to the same amount.
Saya rasa memang agak bernasib baik.
Micro, small, and medium enterprises (MSMEs) can look forward to incentives, including 44 billion ringgit in loans and financing guarantees. 900 million ringgit in funding will support automation and digitization efforts. Government-linked companies (GLCs) will provide up to 1.5 billion ringgit in funds to encourage startups in high-growth, high-value fields.
Funding and capital development will be very important for the overall development of fintech. And we welcome the move where GLCs and GLCs will allocate up to 1.5 billion ringgit in funding for startups, including for SMEs in the high-growth, high-value industries such as the digital economy.
40 million ringgit will be allocated for the Shop Malaysia online program to promote home-based food businesses. Microfinancing facilities totaling 2.4 billion ringgit will be provided by agencies like Bank Negara Malaysia, Bank Simpanan Nasional BSN, and Tekun for micro and small-scale entrepreneurs. My Startup will receive a budget of 28 million ringgit to facilitate business activities for startup.
I'm also pleased to understand that the government will put more efforts to incentivize women and young entrepreneurs, which a total of 720 million was set aside for them. And I'm also pleased to comprehend that the government will focus on promoting entrepreneurship, growth in rural and semi-urban areas. Overall, I believe that the budget is strong, especially for entrepreneurs and SMEs.
Agriculture takes center stage in Budget 2024 with an allocation of 2.6 billion ringgit for subsidies and incentives to support farmers and fishermen. Paddy farmers will benefit from an increased rate of the paddy rice subsidy scheme from 360 ringgit to 500 ringgit per metric ton. The floor price for paddy has been raised to 1,300 ringgit per metric ton. The government also embarks on a 3 billion ringgit, 5 seasons and 2 years paddy cultivation plan to boost rice production. 12.4 billion ringgit will be allocated for Sabah and Sarawak under Budget 2024, with Sarawak receiving 5.8 billion ringgit of the allocation. The special interim grants for Sarawak remains at 300 million ringgit. 7.4 billion ringgit is earmarked for Phase 2 of the Sarawak-Sabah Link Road project, and negotiations are underway for the transfer of the Bintulu port and operation of rural airspace to Sabah and Sarawak. Malaysia's annual subsidies for fuel, food, and other items are among the highest globally. The government is reducing subsidies and social assistance to 52.8 billion ringgit from 64.2 billion ringgit, with phase cuts and diesel subsidies. Temporary price controls on chicken and eggs will be lifted as supplies stabilize. Savings from subsidy cuts will fund increased cash aid for the needy. under the Rahmah Cash Aid Scheme from 8 billion ringgit to 10 billion ringgit, with the maximum threshold Sumbangan Tunai Rahmah STR cash assistance payment rising from 3,100 ringgit to 3,700 ringgit, benefiting 60% of Malaysian adults.
What is remain to be measured and monitored has always been the implementation part. However, from the association perspective, I believe that the lower fiscal deficit, which will be able to achieve via both revenue and subsidy spending measures, will definitely help lay the ground for more sustainable fiscal future. And by doing so, by being prudent, by being disciplined, by being responsible, this will put Malaysia fiscal position back to a more healthy position, and thus putting us on track to push forth a strong economy with innovation, with digitalization at heart as well.
In summary, Budget 2024 is seen as an expansionary yet cautious spending plan. Notably, the much-debated progressive wage model and long-term subsidy rationalization details were omitted. The budget's focus is on empowering people at the grassroots levels through empowerment and upskilling while enhancing Malaysia's revenue. This marks a critical step towards the nation's financial stability and economic growth.